All right. Hello, everyone. As you know, Valentine's is coming, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. Some people don't care. Some people can't wait for, the usual fun, and other people are just waiting to be disappointed. And so I want to talk to all of you about how you can feel loved every day of the year, not just on Valentine's, if you're lucky enough to have things work out for you. So, my name is Shiloh Minor. I'm a love and marriage coach for women who want to have amazing, soul satisfying marriages, but their husbands are not interested in therapy and they really don't want to talk about it. I help women single handedly transform the whole dynamic of their love life so they can have that real life love story that they expected to have when they said I do without starting over in a whole new relationship. So, I'm going to be talking about Valentine's from the perspective of a woman who is not getting what she wants and how she can get what she wants. And I've got my friend Jim here, who's a men's marriage coach. I'll let him introduce himself to you.
Well, hey, folks, and thanks again, Shiloh, for having me on here. My name is Jim Valeri. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I've been doing therapy for 20 years. I've also been married for 20 years, so I know a little bit about marriage and how to navigate through it. And I have a big heart for men and what they go through in marriage, because a lot of times it's really hard to kind of talk about emotions and talk about stuff and address problems with their wives and stuff. So I like to collaborate with Shiloh because she has a lot of insight into where women are coming from and what have you. And so I kind of bring with me sort of the work that I've done with men and trying to help them communicate with their wives and really take the lead in discussing some of these problems with them.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, we both just agree that a lot of problems in marriage could be solved by some mutual understanding. And the fact that we don't know what's going on with each other and why is it so difficult leads to a lot of heartbreak and pain that is truly unnecessary. So let's start with the people who don't like Valentine's. They think Valentine's is stupid. It's an invented holiday to sell chocolates and junk and everything's inflated and it's just dumb. If you believe that, that's no problem as long as your spouse believes that too. If one of you believes that and the other person loves it, you're in trouble. Okay. So make sure, first of all, that if you're not aligned, that you come up with a conversation about that. I'm going to talk mostly today to the women who like Valentine's Day and don't usually get what they want and don't really know what to do about it. Because, yes, Valentine's matters to them. It's not the only thing. Really what they would love is to feel that way all the time. Really what they would love is to, get little tokens of affection here and there, have a little gift brought home, be surprised once in a while. And so when Valentine's comes, the way I see it is it becomes this catalyst for realizing what's not working for you. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got something blasting off my speakers. Turn that off. I've got my Bluetooth speakers on and my sister's trying to call me.
Oh man,
So I
she
know,
wants to talk about this too. Let's get her.
right. That's right. So you really just feel disappointed. Like as Valentine's is even coming, you're like waiting for it. You're like anticipating how this is not going to go well. And you don't know what to do about it because there's a part of you that thinks, well, isn't it obvious? It's Valentine's Day. Like do something. This is the holiday of love. Like show me you care. Do something for me. Some kind of token. And clearly your husband hasn't got the memo because he hasn't been doing the things you want. So the first and most important tip is, what do you want? We know how you want to feel, but what thing or behavior from your husband would help you feel that way? Because nobody can make you feel any kind of way. But what is the desire you have or what type of preference? And this is where you can look into your love languages or just sit with yourself. Some people really want the gifts. They're gift giving people. They want something thoughtful. They might want something a little more valuable because that is what shows care to them is the gifts. If you're acts of service person, it might be like, hey, fix that fence, build that thing for me, give me a day off where you do all my chores for me. This is something that would make some women feel really loved and other women would be like, oh, that's boring, like give me something pretty and shiny, right? I, for almost all the holidays, ask for the day off. And that's because to me time is precious, and to me, having someone do those tasks so I don't have to do them is great, and it helps me feel like seen and appreciated. or you could be a words of affirmation person. You're wanting a letter or a note or a card. You want to have a written record of this person's care for you so you can read it again and feel good. Or your quality time, which means you don't need to go anywhere fancy. You just want to have a real conversation. You want to sit down together, look each other in the eye, and actually have that quality time. And this is something that I think gets missed a lot with when people say, I want to spend more time together. You're not defining it clearly enough. What kind of time together? How do you want to be attended to? Now, these are just some things to jog your memory and have you thinking, because really it's very individual. You have to know what you want, not what you think you should want, not what you think you can get, not what you think your husband will do, but truly what would do it for you. So if you know that, put that in the comments, write it down here, and we'll get to a little later why that's so important and what you can do about it. Jim, I want to now ask you, what are some of the perspectives you see that men bring to Valentine's Day? Because we see a very asymmetric thing here. I've even heard some speakers say that Valentine's is men's most hated holiday. Most of the young men that I have known and spoken with would say it's an invented holiday to take your money, and very, very cynical and actually despise it. Not all of them, but that's been my read so far. What have you seen with the married men?
So, and the men I've worked with, a lot of times they will look at the situation and kind of say, oh, well, I went and bought her flowers and chocolates and it wasn't good enough, because she wanted something else. But she wouldn't tell me what she wanted. And she's like, well, you should have known that, this is something that I wanted, et cetera, et cetera. So then, it turns into a fight, turns into an argument. So it's no wonder why a lot of these guys can't stand it, because it's a little bit of guesswork, And so I think that's why what you said was very important, because knowing and understanding what you want and then communicating it. Like, that's the next step in the parade, is being able to say, hey, this is something that I want. And it's okay to ask for it. There's no harm in asking. It's like you have not because you ask not. You got to be able to go and say, hey, look, because I think I've mentioned this before in one of our other lives. Men are either mind readers or they're morons. Like, pick one, and they can't be both. So it's like either way. Obviously they're not mind readers. So, and we're not all men are morons, obviously, but at the end of the day, we kind of don't really know, unless you tell us. We're very sort of logical in many respects. Like a lot of romance novels and rom-coms will have these guys, especially the Hallmark movies are the worst, right? They'll show up. Oh, look, he showed up with a basket, and there's a little box with a little thing, and it was that thing that your grandfather gave him 20 years ago. Like, these really sentimental, like, gifts and stuff. And it's like, are you, what? Like, I don't, like, that dude's Superman, okay? Like, he's, there's just no way that, like, I shouldn't say no way. There are plenty of, like, I've done and given thoughtful gifts to my wife, but at the same time, like, they're nowhere to that extent. Okay.
Right.
And so
I love that you bring that up, because I've noticed that men will look at those movies just with like disgust. Like, yes. Oh God, like, why do they make women think this is what we do? Stop it. And I remember when I was a young woman and didn't understand men, I was so resentful. I was like, here you have all these movies, you could study them and you could be good at it. What's wrong with you? But you know what I realized? This is going to sound harsh, but rom-coms are female porn. The same way that women look at men looking at porn and say, oh my God, you think that's real women? You think that's what we should do? How dare you think that? And men go, hey, she's a woman. Why not? You can figure it out. No, this is fantasy product. This is a fantasy product for women. I love that. And I want all the women to hear this. They have crafted that to poke at your deepest insecurities and fantasies. That's why you watch it. And that's not real life. It's a fantasy. And so, does it have a shred of reality? Yes. Like you said, Jim, you've bought thoughtful gifts for your wife. My husband, the first gift he gave to me was a full spectrum lamp so that I could be happy in the winter. Like, to him, that's a thoughtful gift. It's something really
right there. I tell you what.
and because I'm not like, I thought that was cool because I'm pretty practical too, right? But like, men do have thoughtful gifts. But I think what we're getting at here is that when we put all our eggs in, he has to think of it. He has to figure it out. It doesn't count unless it was a spontaneous idea that he figured out. We are setting ourselves up for failure, because as much as he might be able to do that in the right frame of mind, it's not the frame of mind he's going to be in when he's rushing around living his life just like you, running kids and business and whatever.
Yeah.
So when you know what you want, right, you can then say to your husband, hey, you know what feels really romantic to me? You know what I love to receive? X. You know what makes me really happy, makes me feel like you noticed me, makes me feel good when I receive this, this, or this. And a pro tip is do this all year. Don't do this just the week before Valentine's Day. Because the upside of this is your man wants to surprise you with cool things. And he wants to do it when he's in the mood to do it, not when Valentine told him to do it. And so if you make a habit of expressing your desires, he will start automatically knowing what you want because you've said it over and over again. And he does want to please you. And this is something I think that people are so cynical about and is absolutely backwards. They'll say, oh, men don't want to, they don't care. It's like, actually, they don't know. They do care, but they don't know. And so I always tell my clients, you should be expressing your desires just as they bubble up for no reason, not to get anything, not to manipulate anything, because then you're in the right energy. Whereas if you come a week before Valentine's and you're all clenched because you're afraid it's not going to happen, you're afraid he doesn't care, you're afraid he hasn't planned anything, you're reliving past Valentine's where he didn't make a reservation and the day of he was like, what are we doing, or something, or oh, it's Valentine's. If you've got all that energy in your body, he's going to feel this immense pressure, almost like a demand coming at him. Like, you
Yeah,
got
for
to
sure.
do this thing or I'm going to fall apart. I'm so mad, right? So this is why I'm so big on the real life love story, which is what I talk about with my clients and in my programs. It's like, you need to have a love story where those cute, sweet things are happening regularly in real life every day, not just on Valentine's or your anniversary or when you go on holiday.
Yeah.
So if you're hearing that and you're like, that's what I want, I'm not about the one big holiday, I want to always feel good, you can book a free consultation with me. This is where I can walk you through what's the problems in your marriage and how can you fix them. And you can really get to the root cause, because I'm not about so many little tips and tricks to talk a little different or act a little different. Because if you're not down to the root cause of the problems in your relationship, your changes won't last. And that's why you'll say, oh, we talked about it, changed for a couple of weeks, went back to normal. It's because you're dealing with the superficial level of behaviors and a couple words. But love stories are made deep down in your emotions. They're made deep down in your beliefs about yourself and about your man. And that's where we go, because I don't want to set you up for failure with a couple little tactics that then don't work because you don't have the foundation for it. So my link is in the bio and I'll put it in the comments. Book a call with me and we can figure this out. It's no pressure, but don't keep going every year, going Valentine's sucks every year. And I keep hoping that at least on Valentine's it'll be better. Like, do something different if you want a different result.
Yeah.
So coming back to, tell him, don't just tell him on Valentine's, tell him all the time. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, I was going to say a lot of this, it's kind of like that game, Pin the Tail on the Donkey. All right. Like, you're wearing the blindfold and he's okay. I got to see if I can hit the right target. And then he just puts the thing there and it's like, nope, that's not good enough. So, and if you're a guy who's feeling like this, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? When it comes to Valentine's Day or most other things, I feel like I'm, playing Pin the Tail on the Donkey. Like, I try and address something and it's no good. It's not working. I'm having trouble even talking to her. Like, hit me up with a DM, book a call with me. Like, I can at least hear your story and, try to work out I want to at least give you one nugget. If you give a call with me, I'll give you something to take with you. All right. And this is stuff that I've worked with people for 20 years and it's been helpful to them. I have clients who, they're couples, men, women, whatever. They'll come in, in my counseling practice and I'll say, look, if I never see you again, I want to make sure that you have one thing to take with you that's going to help you on some level. Now, like Shiloh said, you can't have sustainable change with just one thing and just do it once and then it's fine. You have to go dynamically. You have to make constant change within the system of your marriage over a period of time. And so that's how things improve. So go ahead, feel free. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Like
men, I see we got Tanner here. We've got people signing in. That's great. Men, check in with Jim because it's not hard to please women when you know what you're doing.
So true.
Just like it's not hard to please men when you know what you're doing. It's actually very simple when you have the mindset and the understanding of what goes into it. It's interesting what you said about the pin the tail on the donkey. And it's like, this is what women don't see, is that men don't want to get it wrong. They really do not want to get it wrong. And so when he brings you some overpriced flowers and you're like, why did you buy me those? They cost too much. He's like, well,
Right.
why do I even try?
Yep.
Why did I show up? I'm not going to show up next time. I'm not going to try again. And women, you don't know how many of us have shoot ourselves in the foot by criticizing a gift. So here's your tip for the day. Never, ever, ever criticize a gift. Even if you don't like it, even if it's not your color, even if you think he spent too much money. This is his attempt to give to you, to be romantic. If you shut it down, he won't make another attempt. It's also your moment to realize you haven't told him what you like ever, so he doesn't know. We make a really big mistake of talking about what we don't like and not talking about what we do like. So part of this is our own insecurities, because I've heard women say this, and I know this is the flowers and chocolates thing. Women will say, I don't just want him to check a box. Like, oh, Valentine's, flowers, chocolates, done, right? And we're like, what? And men are going, it's Valentine's. I did the things. Check, check, check. Why are you not happy? Why are there no smiles? Why are there no, yay, Valentine's Day? And this is where women, we have to check ourselves, because we are looking for evidence that he doesn't really love us.
Ooh.
We're like, oh, if you cared more, you would have put more thought into this. This is probably because you don't care about me enough. There could be 1,000 million reasons he bought you the flowers and chocolates that you're not that excited about, but don't make it about you. Don't make it about him. Don't make it personal. Like, oh, he's like not thoughtful, or like, oh, he doesn't like me that much, or like, oh, he never listens. He is making an attempt to give you a gesture that doesn't mean anything to him. Think of it this way. He doesn't want flowers and chocolates. This is not a category that he's like, what would I love if I were a woman on Valentine's? He doesn't have the category for what you want on Valentine's in his head, because he's a man who is in a different part of the role. So you have to allow it to touch you. Allow yourself to be loved by every single thing that your man does for you. And then tell him more about what you like, so that next time it's more like what you like. And then say, oh, this part of it I loved. And he'll be like, oh, good. She was happy about that. Like, if you want to give your husband a gift on Valentine's Day, smile at him. Just smile at him. Just take the day to be happy when you look at him. And these are the simple things. Women think so hard. Oh, men are so hard to buy for. What should I get him? Just give him your smile. It is so much more valuable than some weird wallet that he didn't want anyways. Jim, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's you're talking about a lot about these kinds of things. As you're talking about it, I'm thinking, man, insecurities, because like men have their own insecurities, right? They don't like to be rejected.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, you know, when it comes to Valentine's Day, a lot of men are thinking, oh, cool, intimacy, right? So they'll buy self-serving gifts for their women in some of those situations. Right. And then they get rejected, and it's like, oh, she must not like me. I'm going to go away, and I'm not going to try again, because what's the point? I'm going to keep getting rejected. You know, and conversely, women sometimes have insecurities as well, because and a lot of these insecurities are playing out in the Valentine's Day gift, right? So it's like you said, they're looking for reasons why he doesn't like her, right? And so they're and where are those coming from? They're coming from those insecurities, family of origin stuff, negative self-talk, things like that. Yeah. And so even, you know, thinking in terms of the kind of things that like, let's say you wanted to kind of, you know, approach or you know, connect with, like if a woman wants to connect with her man, you know, for guys, it can be very simple. Like one of those, heard this one quote: the most powerful gift you can give is your attention. And I think that's one of the things that, like, yeah, you know what, undivided attention, like get off the phones, sit down and spend time together. Like, it doesn't have to be at a restaurant, it doesn't have to be any of that stuff. It can just be sitting down and connecting with each other and giving each other your attention. So you're right about that. Like you said, oh, give him a smile, you know, go and just give him a touch. It doesn't have to be sexual, just kind of on the shoulder. Hey, how you doing? You okay? I'm checking in on you, you know, and that can be huge. So yeah, attention, I think, is a big one, and the smile is kind of like that start of that. Like, oh, she's smiling at me. Wow, she's beautiful. Like that's a cool thing, you know. So I'm with you there. I think a lot of those little things that can be done, like, you know, hey, I just want to come over and give you a hug, or hey, I just want to come on, you know, like just tell me about what's going on with me, with you. Tell me about your day, even if you don't care, even if you're not interested in whatever it is he does. Like my wife's a potter, and I'm not like big into pottery, but I'll listen to what she has to say. You know, I'll listen to what's going on in her life. Why? Because I want to give her attention. I want to give her the most powerful gift I can give her.
I love that. It's a gift. In that moment, it's about giving to your partner. So you're not so worried about what it's doing for you, because you're like, I know this is going to be a powerful gift for them. And I love that we got onto this topic, because this is really where my heart is. It's like, how can we give each other these little gifts every day? Every day, think about how we sleepwalk through our lives and through our marriages. But if you saw your husband, you gave him good eye contact and you smiled at him and said hello, and that's it. But if you did that every day, so I got a hair on my, if you did that every day, your relationship would improve so much. And you've just like started smiling at him. That's like all right.
Yeah.
There was something else I wanted to get back to when you said about I lost it now. But
No,
yeah, doing those little things is so amazing. I know what it was. This is important. You said how he gets rejected, he doesn't want to bring it up, he doesn't want to try again, right? And I thought this is what kills marriage, is people get rejected and they don't want to try again. So I might be a woman who said, I really love it if you made reservations and take me out for dinner. I love that. And then he didn't do it. And then it's like, well, I'm not going to ask again. And a man might have taken his wife out for dinner with reservations, and she said, I don't like this restaurant and it's too expensive. And why did you choose this one? And then he's not going to try again. And if we want to have a lifelong love story, if we want to be married for 50 years or whatever it is, you cannot give up. You cannot stop trying. And that's where you talk about the dynamic solutions. And for me, it's the constant upward spiral. It's like you need to have the courage and the emotional skills to come back to the table again and again and again. When you get disappointed, when things don't turn out the way you want, when you get rejected, when you think it's not going to work, all those times, if you just turtle and say, you know what, this is never going to happen, I'll just accept it, we'll just live like this, we'll just go, it doesn't work. I can tell you, my clients who are in their 50s, they've been married for a long, long time, and they say, I thought I could do it. I thought I could just say, it's fine, good enough is good enough, we'll just keep going. And they stopped expressing their desires. They lost hope that they could get what they wanted in their marriage, and they thought they could just soldier on, and you can't. It kills your soul. It doesn't work. So those little deaths where you get rejected and you get disappointed, they hurt. Nobody likes that, but that is a necessary evil in marriage. You will get shut down once in a while. You'll feel disrespected as a man. You'll feel unheard as a woman, and it will be true. Your partner will screw up sometimes. But if you make a decision in your head, that's how it is, I'm not going to try again, now it's on you, because now you've quit being vulnerable and you've quit putting yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people forget that as they grow, they change. You get married at a specific point in time in your life, things are good, and like it's just the two of you, and then kids come along, or they don't come along. I mean, some people have decided not to have kids, but by and large, a lot of people who get married have kids. Yeah. And then that dynamic changes, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we've got to juggle more than just the two of us. Now we have to juggle careers and kids and all this other stuff, and in-laws and all these other things. And then they kind of like, well, we're just going to stay in our lane, kind of go in a direction, and eventually they start drifting apart. And it's like, no, you have to grow. You have to grow as a person. And part of that is being somebody who is up for the change. Well, I've already put in too much work. It's their turn. Okay, then did you want to you just want to put in your work, and there's a number, there's an amount of time for work that you put in, and then you just sit back and wait for the other person to catch up? That's not how this works. Okay. Like, and how do you even gauge that? Like, is this a video game or something? Like, how does that work? So
I love that you said that one. I love that you said that one, because that is a trap women fall into. I've done my work. I'm done. Yep. And then you better get your ass in gear. And then the high horse you're on becomes 30 feet tall. The level of condescension and superiority conflicts that gets cultivated, the self-righteousness that we as women, I know men do it too, but my clients and myself, I know it's a trap for us, because, we do have a level of emotional intelligence as women that we think makes us better or smarter. And that is not right. It's not fair. I'm here to call it out right now. Yes, women have some linguistic and emotional aptitudes in general that are stronger than men's, but that doesn't mean we get to sit there and judge them. That means we're responsible to act on the level we're capable of. This is what I believe about emotional maturity or doing the work. However much work you've done, that's how much responsible you are to doing it, right? It's not compared to how someone else is doing their work. Like, this is your work. And there is a glass ceiling at this point you talked about that I want to challenge you to break through. When you say, I did my work, I'm done, I'm going to wait for you, that's you copping out on your work. That means you hit your own inner ceiling and you're afraid of looking a little deeper. So I just guarantee you there's more there for you. And it's good stuff. Like, yeah, it sucks at first. You feel embarrassed and shame and pain because you got to face whatever you're holding down. But when you release it, like, I can tell you this from experience, I have gone through years of layers. I thought I did the work 20 years ago and I didn't. I thought I did the work 10 years ago and there was more. 5 years ago, I went through the hugest transformation of my life. And then this year I did it again. And it gets better every time because now my level of self-responsibility and awareness is such that I know it's always me. There's always something I can do. And I don't feel shame or burden or guilt about that. I feel opportunity and freedom about that. And that's what I offer my clients. You have an opportunity to feel amazing. You have the freedom to respond however you want. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. This is not about being nicer and being dutiful and shutting up like the old stories about wifehood. That is out. That does not work anyways. And so don't believe you're done your work. There's more, and it's good news that there's more.
Yeah, and I think in many respects that's a trap. No matter who's kind of on their high horse about it, it's a trap because ultimately, what is that's a symptom of a bigger problem, right? It's a byproduct of the fact that you guys aren't talking about problems. So you're not starting where at the work level that you stood. You're both starting at square one. You're both starting working together. Yeah, you were working, but you were working alone. And he wasn't on board or she wasn't on board or whatever it was. Right. So now you've been doing all this work and God bless you if you're doing some work on yourself. Cool. Do that work on yourself. Be a better person. Be the kind of person that your spouse would want to be married to. And that's a big challenge for men as well. Like, dude, be the man who's gonna be in that relationship that your wife is going to be attracted to. But you're starting together. And so like it's the idea and the concept of, all right, let's yes, I'm working on me, and yeah, they might be along in their path, but I kind of look at it like, man, I'm gonna treat others the way I want to be treated, and I'm gonna do what I do for me. I had a client the other day, and he was kind of like, man, why is it that everybody else doesn't think by these principles? Why do they get away with this stuff and I don't? And I'm like, why would you want to live like that? Right. You are choosing to be that good person.
Right. And it feels good. It really does. And I love that you brought this up. I put on my Facebook recently, I said, if you are resentful of the emotional labor you're doing, you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Yep.
And that's because this problem exactly, right? We do some emotional labor and then we say, why aren't you doing it? Why do I have to do all the emotional labor? This is not fair. I didn't sign up for this. You should do it too. I was in that trap for many years. This is not fair, not fair, not fair. That's your inner child speaking. Because when you were a kid, your parents did not do their emotional work, I can guarantee you. And so you were covering for them as a child, and that was not fair. So there's a true experience of victimhood from your childhood that now you're projecting into the rest of your life like a child would. Whereas as an adult, you go, okay, I am doing some emotional work, and they're not doing as much as I'd like them to do. I'd prefer them to do more. What am I going to choose here? Do I want to leave the relationship because of the lack of work they're doing? Okay, no, I want to stay. Okay, if I'm going to stay, what is the value of this emotional work? I get to enjoy myself regardless of if they're doing their emotional work or not. I get to be happy. I get to be free. I get to cultivate my life in a way that works for me. And I get to love them in a way I'm proud of. You can take some honor and some value in yourself. Like what you said, I do this because I want to be this kind of person. When your partner hasn't done as much emotional work as you, you have a unique capacity to be part of their healing. And it's a great honor if you take it as an honor and not as an obligation, because you're not obligated to do it. You're not responsible for anybody else's healing. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you go, you know what, this is a really wonderful person I'm with, and they've got some deep wounds, and I'm not going to take them personally anymore, beautiful. Now it's not your problem. Now you can just be loving and be a safe space for them. And this is how a lot of is how my marriage transformed. This is how my client's marriage transforms, because we all come with our emotional wounds. And when you do your inner work, you heal and you stop feeling bad about everything. You stop taking everything personally. So then when your partner comes to you projecting their inner wounds onto you, you don't bite back. You don't go, oh, how dare you say that about me? You don't like me. You're disrespectful. You don't have a trauma response to it like a child. You say, hey, I don't really like being spoken to that way. Or whatever you say. You say, hey, I love you, but I'm going to take a minute. And your partner then gets the experience of being with a safe adult, which they probably never had in their whole lives. And like, it makes me emotional because we make this about obligation and then there's resentment. We make this about men and women. Oh, we have to. And then there's anger. You don't have to. You do not. I will not judge you for not doing it. But if you choose to be that person, you are a world changer. You change generations forward and back. You change your own life. You change your grandchildren's lives. And so it's a beautiful thing to do if you can embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that you kind of brought up there is just sort of this idea of taking that space. And if you're having trouble communicating, like that's kind of one of the keys I mentioned with people, like, look, hey, take some time to talk about problems. But ultimately, like if it gets to that struggle space where you guys are arguing and not really talking, don't be afraid to say, hey, you know what? Let's take 5 minutes. I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to come back. All right. One of the biggest problems I've seen with a lot of couples is they'll storm off and then they'll just not bring it up ever again. They won't bring up the problem ever again. Right. And so then that kind of cuts off, well, this is not okay to talk about ever again. And it leaves the other person feeling like, well, this is an important problem to me. Why can't we talk about it? So, kind of bringing it back around to the whole Valentine's Day thing. Like, right. This is something that, like, if it's important to you, you want to bring it up in the conversation and say, hey, this is really means something to me. This is really valuable to me. This is really something that I want to share some time with you because, hey, maybe we haven't been on a date in 6 months and I'd really like to go and use this as an excuse. Yeah. Or maybe we go after the day after Valentine's Day and get like 50% off chocolate. I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you have the conversation. Ultimately, I think what we're trying to say here is communicate. Like it's okay to talk. It's okay to share what you want.
Thanks for bringing that back around. I was thinking the same thing. It's that if you let it be a big wound that you can never bring it up again, if you're so afraid of disappointment that you can't have a conversation, you need help. You need a support from an expert who can help you heal so you have the courage to even do the thing. Because I think we all know we're supposed to communicate, but it's not that easy to do. And it's not easy to do in a way that isn't blaming or people will say, how come you never take me out? Or why don't you do? It's like, no, none of this. How come and why don't? What I would love is, and then if it doesn't happen, you're not going to be crushed because you're okay. I'm just going to keep trying. Right. And this kind of like this elevated state of emotional resilience is what allows a relationship to improve because you have the capacity to have those conversations. You don't just go away and say, oh God, I can't face that conversation. It's going to go badly. I'm going to feel terrible. Can't do it. Right. So once again, if you're like, I know I need this, book a call with me. We'll just have a chat. I'll let you know where these childhood things are coming up for you and how you can start breaking them down so they don't destroy your marriage. So you don't recreate the same suffering you had as a child. And men, Jim here, go talk to him because I can tell you all the women who are doing their inner work are like cheering you on. They're like, yay, men going to the couch. Yes, yes. We're all just like collectively having a celebration. And I'm kid you not, we are having a celebration for all the men who do men's work. We love you and we think it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a man or if you know a man, say, hey, you know what? Like there's this guy and he's pretty funny. Or I feel like I'm a little funny. I don't know. Maybe I'm boring you guys to tears, but if you know somebody, you just kind of be like, hey, you know what? Like there's this guy, just shoot him. I won't bite. Okay. Just shoot me a little DM. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, you can talk to me on the phone. I'm an easy guy to talk to. Like, and it's not going to hurt. Worst case scenario, you hang up with me. At the end of the day, like, that's the worst that can happen here. So
there's nothing to lose here. We're going to wrap up soon, but we got a comment here I want to answer. This is Facebook user, so I don't know their name, but they said, agree with your dialogue. What consistent inaction by an unhealed spouse warrants the decision of not moving forward? So this is a very individual answer. You can't really make a blanket statement about it because everybody has different boundaries and everybody has different capacity to deal with that particular kind of wound. Like one woman will say, oh, if my husband acted that way, I couldn't last 5 minutes. And another woman will say, well, it's not that bad. He's kind of got a temper or whatever, but I can ignore it. Right. So it really depends on what you can handle. with someone is a choice. So if you're like, I really want to stay with them, but I can't handle it, get help to handle it, right? You can learn how to deal with your triggers and become more resilient and set better boundaries within the marriage so that you're not so negatively affected by whatever their behaviors are. Generic answer, right? Because we don't know what their behaviors are. But I will say, for the people who have fought long and hard and are wondering, is this too much? First of all, book a call, because you can't really see it from the inside. Like, you can't see what other people can see because you've been in it too long. You're too close to it. You can't see your own patterns. It's impossible without a mirror. But the kinds of things that I see that are really hard to recover from is if your partner is not consistently providing. Like, for women, if a man just doesn't make money or refuses to work or gets fired all the time, or he just creates a pattern where he doesn't bring in income, that will make it very, very hard, because you're always going to feel resentment that he's not lifting his load in that way and you're wearing that load. It's just a very simple, practical thing, right? So the financial infidelity, if they're blowing huge sums of money, addiction, that's porn, drugs, alcohol, any kind of untreated addiction. Go to Al-Anon, by the way. There's a group for people that's amazing that teaches a lot of this stuff, because you can, leave or stay, but you need to do it in a conscious way. It's not easy, right, when you're with someone who is a user. So yeah, in the financial stuff, the addiction stuff, and then the other really common one is untreated mental health issues. I'm not talking about a little bit of depression or ADHD. I'm talking about bipolar. I'm talking about personality disorders, things where this person really cycles and they are making you crazy and you can't tell who's coming the next day. Those things, it can be very, very damaging on the partner of that person, because you're not meant to live in that kind of chaos, and you can't really get your feet under you if they're always pulling the rug with kind of these unpredictable behaviors. And I really do love to speak to that, because I've noticed there's always a small number of women who fight too long and they really damage their emotional and physical health because of it. And you need to be able to talk to an expert, again, not your friend who left their jerk husband, because she doesn't know the difference between her jerk husband and your jerk husband. Might be different kind of jerk. Some can heal, some less likely. So talk to someone about it, because it, Jim, I think you've probably seen this when you counsel men who maybe are misbehaving in their marriage, and you can see that they're more the problem, like maybe they're aggressive or they're loud or they're whatever. Some of them listen and some of them don't. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. And this is why context is so important. That's why it's good to set up a call with you, because I think that it'll help you. Number one, it'll be like a confidential thing. So you're not blabbing this stuff on the internet. Like, so often people are like, they want to get advice or suggestions. They'll put something out there on a Facebook group or on the internet or on Reddit or something. And you get a shotgun blast of all kinds of advice. From people who don't know what the heck they're talking about half the time. And ultimately, even then, there's not a fleshed out story here. There needs to be more. Like, first of all, you want somebody who's going to pay attention to your story, and second of all, you want to have the opportunity to share your story in a way that's private, that's not like, out there on the internet. So all the more reason to kind of set up with you and kind of have that conversation, or set up with me if you're a guy and have that conversation, because that's where this is helpful. Is to be able to give unique attention to your specific problem, rather than kind of like, it's good to comment, it's good to have some discussions about it, but unless I think you covered all the bases there. But until you know exactly what the heck is going on, or until we know exactly what the heck is going on, we're not going to be able to help with your specific issue. So I think there's really something to be said for that.
Well said. It's like you're talking about life-changing decisions here, right? Life-changing decisions, really impactful decisions. So you want to talk to someone, number one, who has the result you want. Jim's been married for 20 years. He figured out how to stay happily married for 20 years. That's somebody who knows what it's actually like. If you talk to someone who doesn't have that, they might tell you can't do it. But that's because they never had to solve that problem themselves. They don't have embodied experience of it. My husband and I, we are more in love and have the chemistry and spark that we had from day one. And we have kids who are 5 and 7. So don't let anybody tell you just because you have small kids, that's not possible, right? So make sure you talk to someone who has what you want and will help you get what you want, and not just project their fears. Oh, that never works. Oh, those type of people never works. I've heard those things so many times. I've heard those things about the kind of marriage I'm in. So I'm proof that that's not the case necessarily. People are sharing their fears with you and not their expertise quite often.
Yep.
But this was so much fun. Thank you so much, Jim. And
My pleasure.
everybody who commented live and came live. If you're on the replay, keep asking questions. We're going to do more of these. We absolutely love to have your interaction. And once again, we are probably the most approachable people I've ever met. You can talk to us. We're easy and also come with a lot of valuable information that could absolutely change your life. So don't be shy and have a wonderful week and a wonderful Valentine's next week. Hope to hear from you
Take care,
soon.
guys.
Bye-bye.